Well, 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 you know what time it is. Tonight we're back live in the counselor's corner, but we're going to be having one of those cocktail conversations. We'll be discussing a scenario: a home is not a home. I'm your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the controversial counselor. And also on my side is Herbert Lewis. You know him, the big bad wolf. So, of course, we're live streaming on Facebook and YouTube from the StreamYard platform. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can just put in the controversial counselor to come up. Click on subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when I do videos. But here's a quick snapshot for what's in store for tonight. Robert. Y'all remember last week it was Gary. All Gary wanted was a family. That's all he wanted. He didn't care. He wanted a family. But the ladies on the panel shut that down. They didn't want Gary to have a family. They said Gary's full of shit. Now we got Robert. He had a family. 15 years he's been married. But he decided to step out. And he not step out, he decided to leave his wife to be with his mistress. So let me go on. He left his wife along with his children to be with his mistress. His departure left his family with a serious hardship that almost left them homeless. You don't want to miss it. For the people who just strolling by, tune in, lock in on this episode, because also we're going to talk a little bit about child support, a little bit about women depending on men solely for finances, and whatever else happens in the counselor's corner. We never know, but we're gonna get that going. I'm gonna read the whole scenario, then I'm gonna bring Herb in, and then I got a couple people, Rebecca and Lakia, waiting in the studio, and I know they're ready to have at it. So let me in the scenario, it's a short one, so let me pull that up. All right. A home is not a home. Robert leaves his wife of 15 years along with their 11-year-old daughter and 9-year-old son to be with his mistress. Robert's wife has solely depended on him financially, and this has left a severe hardship on the family to the point of almost homelessness. Robert has refused to pay child support. Finally, after 1 year, he was court ordered to pay child support. So that was the gist of the scenario. I know people say, I need more information. I need more information. But God damn it, I don't have more information. This is what I got, and I'm going to give you what I got. So we're going to attack this situation from that vantage point on basically what I got. So, Herb, what's good, man?
Another day in the neighborhood, another day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? Would you be my panel host? Oh man, what a tangle web what does it say? What a tangle web we once we practice to deceive. Ah, Robert. A lot of things going on here, a lot of things to unpack, man. A lot. I don't know where to start. Interesting. But we shall see by the end of the show what possibly might have motivated him to leave. There could be a couple different reasons. I'll start by using this old adage that no matter how beautiful a woman is, some man somewhere is tired of her nonsense. And I noticed.
Oh boy.
Gotta start unpacking it from a masculine perspective. It's not always popular, but it's one that needs to be heard. But let's look at it like this. When I was reading through some of the posts, and I mentioned that a man needs to be feel needed in order to be needed, a lot of people were dismissive of that. And I don't think they quite understand the male perspective when it comes to providing for his family. whether he's a sole provider or him and his wife or him and his mate, they're providing equally. If, and I stress, if he feels taken for granted, unappreciated, he is going to go where his actions are appreciated. So if he's dealing with a mate who's consistently nagging him, who's consistently saying he needs to do more, or he's not good enough, or he's short on this, or he's short on that, eventually that wears thin. So no matter what the circumstances are under that roof, he is going to go where he can have more peace, more quiet, and he can feel more appreciative for what he is doing. No matter how short he may come up in the eyes of his mate or his wife or whomever he has the children with. And I know that rubs women the wrong way. But what I have always said about myself is that if you disturb my peace of mind, I have no problem getting rid of you. And some men feel like that when it comes to his wife and the children that he has produced.
Whoa, that's a deep statement right there. Have no problem like getting rid of them.
Yes.
Not the babies, not leaving them almost homeless, whatever, not the babies.
Well, because the women have already established that the man can't take him with him. So if the man can't take his children with him and provide for them, well, what recourse does he have? If the mother deems him unfit in her eyes, not because he's done anything, but because she says he's unfit, then what is he supposed to do?
All right. So we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it right there because I don't want them to wait too long.
I'll save that aspect for later, just in case somebody wants to rebut that.
All right. Good evening, Lakia. How you doing?
I'm well, and you?
I'm great. It's Thursday night, almost the weekend. Can't complain. Rebecca, all I see is that forehead. So you're gonna have to I don't know, you're gonna have to adjust something unless you're on the hideout. Okay. Hey Rebecca, how you doing?
I'm good, Sweet Pea. How are you?
I'm all right. So later, I don't know which one of y'all want to attack. I ain't gonna say attack. Which one of y'all want to respond first to what y'all heard so far?
It doesn't apply to me, so I would never rely on a man to take care of my family. So it don't apply to me.
Okay.
Well, I guess I have to say I agree with you, Herb, because but hi to you, Herb. How you doing over there?
Everyone.
How you doing over there? Rebecca. I know I didn't get a chance to introduce myself to you. I know I've been in the chats, but honestly, I've been there. Was married 11 years. Wasn't happy. We had 4 children together. And it just was not what it was supposed to be when we started. It wasn't what it was when we started. So and a lot of it just went downhill real quick. And when that happened, I had to make a decision. And actually I was ridiculed a lot for it because my situation is vice versa. So I can relate to the man leaving because I left. And people say, well, you got too many kids. And actually I had 6 altogether. So I'm in the church and they looking at me like you done lost your mind separating your family, a big family from your husband. And everybody was like, well, I thought it was good because it was nobody's business what was going on in my marriage. But it was going downhill very quickly in those 11 years. Actually, it was 10 years. And I had to ask myself, it was coming up on 10 years. And I asked myself, can I live another year like this? Can I live another month like this, another day, another week, whatever? And I said no. And I planned and I left. So it could be a man, it could be a woman. But when things change, you have to make some decisions.
Okay. Well,
I know you ain't expect that. Y'all think women gonna come in here like, "Oh, you wrong for
Oh,
that."
no.
He know he didn't messed up. He know he shouldn't be doing that.
The
Well,
one,
it happens. I
no,
did it.
the one thing I learned in
Can't
life
judge
is the one thing I learned in life is never have a preconceived notion about a position anyone takes. And I think that's half the problem when we have these discussions, is a lot of people have a preconceived notion about what they think somebody's going to say or how somebody's going to react, and I don't. I make it a point not to. I make it a point to allow anyone to have a position, regardless of their gender, because you simply put, you just don't know. Now, the other element I will throw in there is you have a lot of guys like last week who want something, and then when they get it, it's not what they bargained for. So as opposed to being a stand-up individual, they take the easy way out. That could also be the case with this particular situation. We see it time and time again that a man signs up for certain duties, and once he gets in the middle of those duties, he's just like, you know what? This wasn't for me. I thought I wanted the house and the white picket fence and the family, and when I realized, I gotta work between 40 and 60 hours a week, and I have to come home and I have to hear my wife's mouth about how much more the family needs, not what she needs, but what the family needs, and how little Junior's grades are slipping, and how the daughter's doing this, and she needs a little bit more help around the house. He feels overwhelmed. So as opposed to rising to the occasion, he shrinks. And I want to bring up something I just heard about to illustrate a point. Apparently, there's a little kerfuffle on the show The Bachelor. Now, I've never watched an episode of The Bachelor. I just refuse to watch that type of television, even if I could. But apparently, one of the contestants that the guy chose was involved in a costume party depicting Lady Antebellum thing. Now, antebellum is, of course, during the times of slavery. Now, me personally, I have no problem with a costume party. It's a costume party. If you want to attend. If you don't. But the one thing I detest hearing about is how people are being vilified for engaging in something. Now, originally, the guy defended her. Now, she was a Caucasian female. The Bachelor is a Native American black male. Now, when the heat got too much, he wilted and relented under the public pressure. This is what a lot of men do. When that pressure gets to be too great, as opposed to standing up and having some spine, they wilt. They revert back to a situation prior when they didn't have any responsibilities, and that's how they act. So they run off, leave the wife or the mother of their children to fend for themselves, and then they wonder why women rely on the system, and things go haywire. The kids come out bad. Little Junior starts to fall into the streets because it becomes too much for one person to do. So, like I said, there's always more than one avenue to look at when we discuss these type of things. It just so happens that sometimes we don't always allow them to play out because they get too sensitive, they hit a nerve, and it's understandable. It's difficult to talk about those things without getting emotionally invested. Now, I might come from a different realm because I don't have any children, and I'm not emotionally invested in those type of situations. When people say, well, you don't understand. It's not that I don't understand. I don't let my emotions overrun the situation, so I can sit down and have a sentient discussion about it, because that's the only way we're going to be able to advance the topics on these and get to the root of these. And this is where the community comes in. And so often as it is with us, the community is broken. So if you can't step out into the community and ask for a hand, yeah, you might have a neighbor who's good at handling troubled kids. So you say, hey, look, neighbor, come here for a moment. I need some advice. How do I handle this? This is why do you guys think I bring situations to you guys? I bring situations to you guys because I'm looking for a different perspective on how to handle it. Not because I can't. I'm looking for a different outcome. And the only way you get a different outcome is by running across people who might see things differently or have a different perspective.
Hello there.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing? So you guys are all Americans, yeah?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, I'm over here in Dublin.
Oh yeah,
Cool.
Dublin. Wow.
So I have a question. What's the fascination with guns in America?
Well, let me ask you like this: what's the fascination with pubs in Ireland?
Sorry, with what in Ireland?
Pubs, bars.
Pubs. Well, they're jolly and you can get drunk. And it's a wee bit of an unwind after a day. Like when you've been working all day and you get to have a drink and you don't have to go home to the wife till all the morning.
Well, some Americans feel the same way. You have to keep in mind that guns in America have been with this country since our inception. You know, it's not that the average American is a gun wielding nut, if you will. A lot of Americans who have firearms keep firearms for protection because some of us a lot of people have the misconception that America is one big city. Most of America is a rural country where law enforcement sometimes can take 5 to 10 minutes to get to you. So in that 5 or 10 minutes, if you have somebody that's breaking into your house and they're armed, how do you defend yourself?
I've got you now. I understand.
All right,
So-
I got a question. Father May?
Yes.
Is that what you call yourself?
It's Father May I.
May I? All right, so I want to know, you came on here and you said fascination. You know what the topic is tonight we're talking about?
No. I just, what I did was I went onto YouTube and I typed in StreamYards and then I clicked the live filter and it brings up all the kind of live StreamYards.
Okay. Glad that
I'll
you
leave
joined
to
us.
I'll leave you to it to get on with your conversation. I'm sorry for spoiling it, but it was good talking to you. You have a good weekend. Bye-bye now.
All right. Keep coming back next time. All right.
Bye.
Yeah, I wasn't about to take it there. I wasn't about to take it. Glad he joined, but all right. Before I go on that, I want to I did a survey, and it's just 5 questions. I just want to go over the results, and it kind of dealt with the scenario, Robert leaving and child support and how much bills. So the first one was, if you had the opportunity, would you become a stay-home mom? Pretty much 70% said no, and 30% said yes. So hopefully we'll get a chance to break each of these down, but I just want to keep it moving for now. Number 2, would you depend on your man to support you financially? 92.3 said no, and 7.7 said yes. Number 3, man should pay how much of the household bills? 46.2 said half. 30.8% said most, and then 23.1 said all. Number 4, if a woman decided to have a child against a man's wishes, should he pay child support? 53.8 said yes, and 46.2 said no, which I thought that was kind of interesting. That was kind of close. And it shocked me that 46.2% said no. So I think that's a conversation that we should delve into out of this. And then the last one, would you trust your child or children's father to pay you child support, or do you prefer a court-ordered arrangement? And 92.3 said yes, they would trust him, and 7.7 said no. I found that disparity in large thing was it was shocking too, because I thought it would have been a little more closer. Anybody got anything to say as far as that survey in those numbers?
Well, I do, but I'll yield the floor.
Ladies.
I was in the majority, so.
Oh, Toya, you're in a little funky little mood this evening.
My name's not Toya.
I mean, Rebecca. I guess because I just looked at the thing comment. You know what I meant.
I'm not in the mood. I'm just, I'm trying to answer the questions that I know, that I absolutely know about. And though they don't, I mean, again, I was in the majority. I wouldn't rely on a man to take care of me. But if I were married or I had a man living in the house, I would expect him to pay for half, no more, no less. If he didn't make as much as me or I didn't make as much as him, maybe that would make a difference. But I don't think so. I've never taken anybody to child support or asked for it, so it really don't apply to me. But I would think that if I ever asked the kids' fathers or something, they've always sent it. So I would think they would pay child support if I asked, but I never did. And I would definitely want to work because I don't want to rely on any one man or woman to be my sole provider, because I wouldn't want anybody to have that much control over my life.
All right.
Do you view it as control?
Yes.
And in what sense do you mean by control? Just so we are clear and everybody else is listening is clear.
I mean, there's only one definition for control, so that would be it. I wouldn't want anybody to be able to tell me what I could and could not do because I don't bring any money into the household. So.
The reason why I asked that question is because this: if you're living in two homes independent of each other, and the only thing you require from him is child support, then you're free to come and go as you please, and you're also free to seek employment. Would that be correct?
Say that again.
I said if you and another man have children and you go to separate ways, and all you need for him to pay is child support, then you would be free to come and go as you please, and you would be free to work. Would that be correct?
Yes.
So that's why I'm asking the question. And what resemblance do you refer to as control? Because he's not there, so he can't tell you what to do. He can't force you to.
The survey question is would we stay at home or would we have someone be a provider for us? And I was answering that question. I would work because I wouldn't want I wouldn't want someone else to be my sole provider. I wouldn't want to have to depend on someone for money or income or how I live my life. I would prefer to do that on my own.
And that ties back to the scenario where Robert decided to leave with the mistress and leave his family with the mistress, and she pretty much wasn't working, and she was financially dependent on him.
Yeah, I would.
So now she was put in the bind.
No, I understand the financial dependency aspect. That's one I don't question. What I'm trying to understand better is the thought behind the control, because once an individual leaves a situation, the individual.
Well, I wasn't talking about that situation. I was talking about the survey question, and the survey question was, would you rather be a housewife or would you rather work? And I said that I was in the majority because I wouldn't want someone to be the sole financial provider for me, because I wouldn't want anyone to have that much control over my life.
Yeah, so basically she's saying she would work no matter what in the household. She's going to have her own money.
Yeah.
No, that's fine, and I have no problem with that. As a matter of fact, I'll go so far as to say this: I haven't dealt with a woman in at least the last 6-7 years who doesn't make as much money, if not more money, than I do. That's for that particular reason. I don't want anybody to feel they have to depend on me. It's not that I can't carry a family. I have all that I need right here to carry a family. I have a house I can provide for in terms of basic utilities. So anybody coming into this house, whatever they bring, that's going to be for them anyway. It's not as if I need another income to carry the home and do what I do. And I think it reminds me of what a guy on YouTube named Obsidian talks about. And this is his breakdown. He says, look, If you get two individuals, they graduate high school, they start out working, and they work together to build a life. So whether they start out at minimum wage job and they work their way up through what is considered the American dream, you put those two incomes together, even let's say they're making $25,000 a year each. You put that income together, that puts them solidly in what is considered the American middle class. Now, of course, that's going to depend on location. In a place like New York City, Atlanta, LA, or any other major metropolitan area, $50,000 is pretty much going to make you poor, because you're not going to be able to afford the basic housing, which is why location is everything. I know the money that I make, if I was in New York, I'd be homeless. There's absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I happen to live in a city to where housing is very inexpensive. The money that I make affords me to live a middle-class lifestyle. So I think that's one of the things that we need to understand is location determines a lot. And we have a lot of people that once they make a certain decision, whether it's to have a kid or to get stuck in a job in circumstances to where they can't move, they're kind of locked in. So that becomes an issue, particularly if they have a kid and that union dissolved. Now they're left scrambling. They're left in a situation that Robert has put this woman in. And yes, I say Robert has put this woman in because he started out in good faith and then he withdrew.
That's what I was going to say. Like, where does the responsibility come in Robert's part, where he allowed it to happen and he did not encourage? I don't know the scenario, the whole scenario, but to create one, it would seem like he should take some responsibility in the fact that he allowed his wife to be a stay-home mom and did not have any other income. He should have some type of responsibility to make sure, like, to have some counseling to see if there's something that they can do to resolve the issue and not just leave. So that's the one thing I would say, because I had tried to have counseling. It didn't work. So that's not, did they have counseling? Did he try? Did he try to ask his wife to get a job or, to do things to spark the relationship back up?
Well, see, one of the things for me, I don't care if I was making $1 million per year. I'm going to recommend the woman, she's going to do something, because I already know that after a while, you're just there. You're just there. You're doing the household stuff. You're doing stuff for the kids, but you're not doing something for yourself. So whether you going to school full time, working part time, and you taking care of, pretty much of the household load, you need to be doing something, because I already know that's going to create friction. That, okay, if I'm working and I got a job, I'm traveling and doing this, and you're just there all the time with the kids, doing your week looks the same, your day looks the same, day after day, you have your regular schedule. It's going to be some issues. So I would prefer, not because you need it financially, that just may be little blow money that she have. Okay, I work, whatever. I could go out, buy what I want to buy, do what I want to do, and that's just my money. I would prefer that. That's what I would recommend. I think all that stay home mom, stay home dad, that eventually lead to some type of emotional or physical violence. That's just me. No, I don't have no percentages. No, I didn't do no research. So don't ask. I didn't do it, but it's just my opinion that I think it's a lot of probably bickering, go back and forth because some of those situations. Now I'm off my soapbox. I keep it short and simple.
Nope.
Brolic T, what's good? Hey, you sitting there quiet, looking like one of the Supremes or whatever, like you ain't got nothing to say.
I mean, I took the survey. I said that I wouldn't mind being a stay-at-home mom. No, I wouldn't depend on my husband to take care of me. I've always been a forward thinker where I would have a job or bring in some kind of income so that, God forbid, something was to happen to him and he couldn't and he could no longer work. At least there's a nest egg for us to fall back on until I can actually, make something happen, or until he could go back to work, or whatever the case may be. As far as, what was the other questions? Would I trust him to take care of me? I already answered that one. Would I trust my children's father to pay me child support? My kids all have a bank account. Their father never has to put any type of money in my hand. All he has to do is go to the bank and put the money in for the kids. He can call my daughters whenever he wants to call them, and he can ask them for himself what they would like. And they can tell him. They have, well, one has Cash App, so he can send her money. And so it's never, for me, I've never wanted to be in a situation where I have to chase you for money or any of that kind of stuff, because the deal that I have with my kid's father, if we went to court, they would bring him out to dry. And I've just always been like, look, as long as the girls can live a comfortable life like they were when we were together, I don't have nothing to say, and I don't have any need from you. But when they begin to lack, then we have a problem, because you spoiled them. Now you need to keep it up, because I've never been. I wasn't raised that because my child asked for something that they should get it, and their father's always been that kind of person. Like, well, since we didn't have, I'm going to shower them and make sure that they had. No, there's certain things in life that they just kind of got to work for. That's just my 2 cents.
I want to say this, whatever, and this add a different element. What's up with, and I posted this, I don't know, I think it was today, when you have a situation where they're not together, and you're, as a guy, your 2-year-old daughter lives with the mother, and she's saying, oh, because she lives with me, you got to pay half the rent, half the mortgage, whatever, utility bills, as the father has to go half on everything, because the daughter lives there. On top of him having his own bills and all that stuff. Some of that shit just don't seem right. It don't seem fair, because you already had to live on your own to begin with. So now you think a 2-year-old supposed to split that shit with you, and you get it from your dad, and he's gonna pay for it. Now that ain't right. I ain't checking for that one.
That's not right. But I mean, if you're a guy and you live in a 1-bedroom because it's just you, because the kid lives with the mom and now she's got to have a 2-bedroom, I still don't think it's fair. I guess I could see some woman's point of view, on that. But I think you made another post about men paying child support and it just leaving them absolutely destitute. I've never been in the child support system per se. I do think it needs to be overhauled greatly, but I would never be so vindictive, even if I was mad about the breakup or whatever led us our separate ways, that I would make somebody else I would make someone else's lifestyle so hard on them that they couldn't survive just to have the money. But I agree with what she said. If we were together and you spoiled the kids rotten, there would be an expectation that you would keep that going or sit down and have a conversation with them, about whatever. But I would hope that if we broke up, that you would help me continue to maintain their lifestyle or whatever. But I would never ask anybody to break their back, no more than I'm willing to break my back. Let me put it that way for our kids.
Now, let me just say this for clarification. When I said as far as like making sure that they still have a comfortable life, that does not mean I need you to pay half my bills or any of that, because I'm very capable of doing all of that on my own. And even when we were together, I was paying a large majority of the rent. So that was never a thing. It's just that all these little Barbies and all these Barbie dream houses and all this stuff, you feel like you just have to go buy them because they're cute and fluffy and they want it. Like, my ex bought my daughter a cat after I advised she doesn't need a cat. She's too young. She can't take care of it. And then at the end, he bought this cat in the house and she was afraid of it. So I'm like, now we got a pet that she's afraid of. She won't touch. And if it gets near her, she screams and she run away. Like, it's just certain things.
I know with mine, I had with my son, you know how kids grow out of stuff real quick. And the dad wanted to buy these Jordan sneakers and all the high tops and whatever, whatever the latest sneaker was. But I'm like, the kid's gonna grow out of it before you even know it, and nor do they even wear them. Babies don't even wear sneakers really. Or you lose them because they kicked it off their foot, when you walking around, whatever. So to me, that was always, I would say, I'm not buying nothing. I'll go to Payless. If you don't want them to wear them sneakers, then Payless sneakers, then you buy its own sneakers. You buy it. And that's how I always did it. Cause I'm like, I'm not spending my money on some little shoes that he gonna lose in 10 minutes. And it would come even with toys, in Christmas time, you buy kids all them toys. They don't play with none of that stuff, baby. Not even 2 weeks later. They ain't playing with none of it, so that's just
Let me speak to that.
not very smart to me.
I think what we have is a divergence of culture, and people wanted to give what they didn't have as kids, and I think we prioritize the wrong things. And this is one of the questions I always ask people in terms of their kids, and this is just people I know, not some random stranger. Are you willing to take that excess money you have and establish a 529 savings plan for your child? That way,
That's a good question. That's more important.
That if something happens
Mm-hmm.
when you become of age, they can take that money and use that money to secure housing, to secure transportation, or if they're going on to college, to secure payment for some of their college education. I think these are, even if you just have a kid out of wedlock, I think these are some of the conversations that need to be had in earnest, because as a culture, we don't use the financial resources that the rank and file people use or other demographics use, because we don't think they're worthy, or we just simply don't know about them. Because I'll mention that to a lot of people, and they'll ask me, what is that? And I'm sitting around, I'm scratching my head, I'm just saying, when it comes to finances, are we that devoid of what most people would consider basic knowledge? And unfortunately, I have to say yes. I don't have life insurance, but then again, I'm not necessarily in the situation to where I'm going to, quote unquote, burden somebody if I pass unexpectedly.
Well, I'm gonna pull a plug for my
Then
people.
what you think they gonna do? Her just like leave you in the basement or something? Like somebody gonna have to gonna have to do something.
Funerals are expensive. I don't want a funeral. Cremate me. Either cremate me or donate my body to science. That's first and foremost. I don't believe, like people say, I don't believe in putting money in the ground. To me, that's a waste. Take that money. Like, I have nieces and nephews, but I have no children. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of me saying I'm not going to burden somebody. Yes, there's going to be some cost, but I have money set aside to where if something happens, they'll be able to access that money, and I'm gone. I'm there in thought, but I'm not a financial burden. And I think too many of us don't understand that we're too busy living a materialistic lifestyle. So we want the latest flat screen TV. We want that new purse. We want those new sneakers. We want those new shoes. We want the best car.
Man, y'all so ridiculous with that TV shit, whatever. Before TVs used to last 10, 15 years, whatever. Now y'all getting TVs like every other freaking month, whatever, because a new big one come out. Yeah,
Right.
That's ridiculous. Like, come on now.
Listen, that's no more ridiculous than switching out your phone every time a new one comes out, like it's a phone. It's that's ridiculous to me.
Time one comes out.
So people spend their money on what they want to spend their money on, but
But then at the end of the day,
phone.
when something happens, they up there for a GoFundMe or whatever case, whatever. You can be spending that money on insurance and stuff like that. That you can get you a nice little deal package or whatever you want to call it.
And that's
by the way, good evening, mofo.
And that's what I'm trying to some others to do basic things. Everybody's born, everybody died. Unless you've been destitute all your life, you should be planning At least the average individual who's working should be putting some money aside when that day comes. And this is one of the things they talked about when the pandemic started in reference to people not having at least 6 months of savings. I think there was like 60% of Americans didn't. That to me is alarming.
Well, some of that is whatever they don't. I mean, just the way the system is set up, them numbers may plan out like that because it's what it is. It's designed that it's that way.
Yes,
unfortunately,
and that's what I mean by the confluence of generations. Our grandparents didn't rely on credit. If they couldn't buy it cash, they simply didn't get it. They went without. We have become, and it's not just us, it's just a culture. We are so debt heavy as an individual populace and as a country, eventually, and I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the term debt bubble, but the debt bubble is going to pop. So when it does, what are we going to be left with?
You know, if I can just share, I grew up, like I just shared about my son and his sneakers, and I would not buy expensive sneakers. But now when I get to my youngest son, I have to be honest, I'm buying expensive sneakers. And so, and that's crazy, right? But, you know, also you have to think about when somebody's tax bracket goes up, say, you know, their money bracket goes up, you know, you're not as frivolous. You're a little bit more willing to spend, you know? And if somebody's in a higher, and I'm not, you know, I'm just saying that as I've gotten older and, you know, now, you know, the dynamics has changed and I am spending more money with the kids. And now I feel like I've neglected my oldest son, but he still gets what he wants. He's still spoiled. But to some degree, and still be able to put money in an account for them, that's where we want to be. You know what I mean? It's like you should be able to enjoy, we should be able to enjoy our life, not to spoil our kids, but to be able to show them if they work hard, you know, then they can play hard. And that's what I've been striving to give them, that balance. Because I wasn't raised, well, I was like my grandmother, I was raised by my grandmother and I was spoiled, whatever. But then with my mother, and it was like every man for himself, God bless us all. So it was like I was working since I was 14. So with that, I did want to spoil my kids a little bit because when having a big family, I did not want them to look a certain way. And I did not want them to look like they didn't have because we had come from a big family. And so it changes. You understand what I'm saying? So I know I can sit here and try to be like, oh, I'll never do it. I wound up doing it eventually because things changed. And I was able to do all that you're saying, Herbert, and be able to still bless them when they do well and still be able, you know what I mean, still have some money in the bank. That feels good. And that's where we want our people to be.
I like that. I thought that statement is wonderful. I like
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
I do, because my kids are spoiled too. And it was by choice. I grew up not having a lot, and I didn't like that feeling. It gave me a lot of character, and it made me want to do better than my parents. But yep, I spoil my kids too, and sometimes it's a bitter pill to swallow. But I look at myself in the mirror for that, so I don't try to throw that on anybody. But yeah, like he said, even being single, I think you should have something in place, but I could understand why he said what he said. But after my aunt died, and seeing how things panned out for her and her husband after he died, it made me change a lot of things. I was always able to save money. That was never a problem, but I made sure that, you know, my house is covered. If I die tomorrow, the house will be paid for and the kids will be all right. I took out 2 extra life insurance policies. All 3 of my kids have their own bank account, their own savings account, and have been growing it since, I think they each got one for like their first birthday. And I've always been growing it, and now it's theirs. They grow it themselves. I want them to live their best life. I don't want them to go out into the world and be a bunch of selfish assholes. But I also wanted them to have a lot of stuff that I didn't have growing up. And sometimes that leads you to overdo it, and I probably am. Nope, I am guilty, of overdoing it. But so far, they're all good kids. My youngest is struggling a bit because he's the baby, but he signed on a dotted line to buy his own car on his own credit, no help from me, and he's working. He's still got a few other things that he needs to work on, but I feel like this house is financially secure. I moved into a whole different tax bracket myself 2 years ago, so I understand now that I don't have anybody to raise.
Right.
All this extra money that I have, I'm trying to put it away and save it. I agree with what he said. You should have at least 6 months. And I think if I lost my job, I could live for a year before I would start to cringe. But I was talking to Dave and I put myself like on a savings challenge this year. And if I could stop buying shoes, I would be okay.
Right.
We all got our vices, but I try real hard to be independent and to make sure that I'm not a burden to my kids or to my family. And I try to forward think also. If everybody in this house lost their job, my daughter, my son, I want to have enough money to make sure that I can make all 3 car notes, buy groceries, pay the mortgage, whatever the case may be. And that's how I continue to think. And it helps me keep money in the bank so that if we have to fly home, I can buy 4 airline tickets, that sort of thing.
Right.
So I agree with that part of what he said. And I think more people should think like that because nobody was expecting the pandemic to be this crucial.
Let me just say this one quick thing. And one of the things is that life insurance component is a big thing. And many of us, I lost, I'm going to say too many, but some significant family members that passed away. And it was just like, okay, it was enough money to bury them. That has to stop. That has to stop because other ethnic groups, Caucasians, whatever,
I have enough money to make sure that I can
they have their money, they have it set up. And they have a nice nest egg for their kids down the road that they're able to get houses and do stuff, go to college and stuff like that. Well, the one thing I always say, and I learned that from the white guy, the great Dave Ramsey, said, no one should be having the saving plans for their kids to go to college. They dictate that. You dictate that by having good grades. You get A's and B's, you get scholarships. You go to school for free. End of story. So nobody should be wasting their money like, oh, I got to save $50,000 for this kid to go here. And now the prices is outrageous. So the best thing to do is encourage them to get A's and B's. They might not be able to go to their school of choice, but they can search around and they'll go somewhere that they pretty much won't have to pay for anything if they do their job. So that should be the push. Stop putting your money talking about, oh, I got to put this away from them to go to college. Because you know what? They get there. Some of them don't get through it. So now you can save that money for years and they asked and failed out because they couldn't make the standard of academic progress. And that timeline is short. So just my little tidbit. I'm done.
And that makes sense.
You know what? So
go ahead.
So so my daughter is about to turn 30. She turns 30 on Monday. My son just turned 28. And so, thinking back on who I was as a parent with them and who I continue to be, I was a very intense parent. And I spoiled them, because, the people that are familiar with my story know that, I come from an abusive background. So absolutely, I wanted my children to have a completely different upbringing than what I did. But for me, in spoiling them, that didn't stop me from instilling values in them too. I spoiled them as far as, I didn't I was the parent. I didn't say the reason. The reason was because, my mom, no, and because I said so. And it's like, well, if I'm doing something wrong, let me know so I can correct it. If I'm, I took everything as a teachable moment because I was so determined to do things in the opposite of how my mother handled it. So, I was, I wanted to raise thinkers. My mother told me that she purposely didn't prepare me for life outside of her home, which I think is just a heinous thing to say to somebody. Like, that's your job, job abuse. And so with my kid, it's like, no, I need them to know that they need to be self-sufficient, that yes, if anybody is going to be in their life, that these people need to be adding to their life. But when it comes to where they get their, they're surviving from, that they're relying on themselves, that they're never in a situation where, I was just really intense about preparing them for that. So, I was overindulgent because I wanted them to enjoy life. Like, I brought these kids here, you don't bring them here to, turn them into, slaves of the world that we're in. Them being here is a completely selfish act. You know what I'm saying? They had nothing to do with it. So I wanted to give them the best life. I wanted them to enjoy life, but I also knew that it was my job to, like I said, instill values. So I don't think that just because someone spoils their kid, that it's an automatic, thing that they're not also teaching their kid. My kids were spoiled, but they weren't brats. Even to this day, I got a call today. My daughter was like, well, hey, look, Mom, I'm gonna need you to stay a month. And she did it because she knows she can, because I will move heaven and earth, if they need me. Because that's as the parent of grown kids, let me tell you something they don't tell you as a parent. When your kids get grown, because your whole life has been about these mofos, right? Like, your whole life, like you're everything about you has changed and molded about these mofos that you brought into the world. So now they're gone and they're doing their own thing and they don't give a damn about what you're doing. And now you just like, okay, but you're supposed to need me though. Like, you still supposed to need me though. And so, yeah. Now my daughter calls me and she's just like, hey, look, I need you to stay here for a month. And in her mind, like, it's a no-brainer that I'm going to do it. And it is. And that's what I mean in the way that I spoiled my kids, that they know that Mom is there, that no matter what's going down, like, I'm going to move heaven and earth to, get what they need and everything like that. But, they're good people. I'm 2 for 2 and cool kids. When some people complain about their kids, I get almost embarrassed because, I got 2 for 2 and awesome ass kids. So I'm just like, okay, well, right.
And just if I can come in real quick, like, that's how I feel. My kids have been awesome. Like, they're I want to kind of tie back into answering some of David's questions too, because I really didn't answer. So going back to, like, child support, none of them paid child support, and I didn't care because they were my kids. They came out of me. And I felt like if they did, great. If they didn't, keep it pushing, because I'm going to take care of these because they're mine first. So I didn't care if they paid child support or not. I tried. It didn't work out because they weren't working. They tried to beat the system, but hey, oh well, I'm going to keep taking care of mine. Would I want half? If me and the guy was together, I would definitely look forward to him paying at least half if possible. I never wanted to marry for money. I grew up in that environment where everybody kept their husbands because they had the good job, but there was no love there. And a home needs love, and it wasn't there. That was my man. He had a good job, and they had their mistresses. Saw it, most of my life. So that's not the life I wanted to live. And with that, saying that also with my children, being a stay-at-home mom, I never been. I always worked 14. I worked since I was 14, but I had an opportunity when I had surgery or, had a car accident, I had to be off on disability for a minute, that I was home for a minute, but it was uncomfortable because I'm used to working and taking care of myself. And also then to tie in regarding with my kids are, I would say we have the Bible as a guide for being a parent, but if you don't read it, You don't know. And if nobody's teaching you, you don't know. And so you come in just doing the best that you know how to do from what you've been through. And I've been through some stuff, and that's what I just choose to pour into mine. I have my oldest 28, my youngest 14. And what I did with my 28-year-old, I definitely I didn't do everything I do with my 14. But one thing I always teach them is, one is to love the Lord thy God with all their heart, their mind, and their soul, but also to work hard. If you work hard, you play hard, you're going to get some stuff in life when you do what you're supposed to do. You can't wait for no handouts. And when it comes to college, my whole goal is to teach my kids, get them good grades so you can get a scholarship. That's not my job. It's not that it's not my job, because I have taken out parent loans for my kids for college and still paying them back. But that's my response. I do feel a responsibility for that, because I want them to have something. And if I can help them get that, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do for it to make it happen, because they're mine. They were given to me to take care of. So when it comes to college, when it comes to being a grandmother, I look forward to it, because I want to be there, because they were given to me to be there for. But also, do I enjoy my own life? Absolutely. But why not? We have to give. I just think that for me, it's just teaching my kids balance and teach them from the things I've learned in life for myself, what I've experienced.
Now, you said something that kind of resonated.
What's that?
When you
What
said,
you want to rebuttal?
I don't know, somebody got something on that is an echo?
No, this is me. I hear it though. It almost sounds like a monster in the background, a low-key monster.
Okay.
Almost like Darth Vader's voice.
No, you said something about far as religion, the Bible, and teaching them. And when you think about the principles of teaching, like a lot of people, they'll go and they'll get teachings from the Bible. The thing about that is you can read the Bible all day long, but most teaching and stuff comes from the great John Wooden said the teaching principles is demonstration, imitation, correction, and repetition. So to me, if you could read the Bible, but if you're not seeing duplications of that in everyday life, is that the problem with many people? That they can go read this and then they still, they could go to church, they could watch it virtually, whatever, and then in their everyday life is something different. And that's the same thing with kids going to school. The teacher can do this and they can do that, but if you don't go home and you don't practice the same thing, shit just ain't gonna work out right. It's just not gonna work out right. So, and that's the same thing that the people get dressed up and they listen to somebody talk and they do this, but then when they walk out, they're like, man, turn up tonight, or whatever the case is, and all that stuff is thrown out the window. So that's just something, me, certain things I hone in on. And
can I say something that's very real quick?
When I was
just because I know you said like something that you said when we were on it, when I was on here before, Saray, when you was on here, and it was about your children are a product of their environment. Remember, and I think you were talking about how you are as a mother and how you want to teach your kids. You know what I mean? And that's my kids saw that firsthand with their father and with me. Like I went to church faithfully, and he did not, but he still professed, knowing the Bible and knowing God, and which he probably he does, not to take that away from him. But then it's a difference of how you live your life. And they saw the difference. And you can say something, you can preach it, but if you don't see the difference, if you don't see if somebody speak faith and you don't walk in it, kids see all of it. And we insult their intelligence when we think they don't. Yes.
Well, it's real world application. And what David is talking about is this. I can tell you how to do this. I can explain to you how to build a house. I can give you all the tools, everything that's required. But if you don't know how to use those tools in the correct manner, then what you're going to have is going to be far different from what you should have. This is why this is why the trial and error phase is so important. Because if you don't have the time to go out and err, and those errors that you commit are impactful errors, and when I say impactful errors, I'm talking about something you do with your child. So if you go out and you make a bad decision and your child pays a price, that may be a price that sets that child back. And I think that's what we don't understand. This is why I'm always talking about the savings plan. This is why I'm always talking about the 6 months. And keep in mind, these are not Herbert's numbers. These are sound financial principles that have been practiced from generation to generation to generation. Like David said, there's only certain demographics that don't employ them. And the first thing they say, well, what do you think we are? Rich? It has nothing to do with being rich. It has everything to do with being practical. It's the old adage of trying to keep up with the Joneses. And this is where a lot of people who don't make as much money get caught up because they don't want their kids to want. They want their kids to be on par with their neighbors, even though their neighbors might be making twice as much money as them. Like you ladies, you can afford to go out and get that high-end item for your child while your next door neighbor can't. And it sets up a culture where bullying can take place. And that's not the intent. That's just the way it works out between peer groups because there's always jockeying for a position. So that's that in a nutshell. But I mean, we're at a crossroads now where we have to ask ourselves, who isn't going to be able to make that leap? And do we want to respect and bring them with us? That's the question that is going to be on the table moving forward, is that do we want to bring people with us who consistently make unsound financial decisions? In other words, they keep being a drain on society, whether that's society, your immediate family, or the community at large. And it's an uncomfortable question that eventually we're going to have to deal with.
And before somebody else go on,
Why do you think it's an uncomfortable question?
Because people aren't willing to cut people off. They think everybody is salvageable.
You know, people cut people off for some of the dumbest reasons. So, you know, so when we're talking about somebody that is a drain, and this is a man or a woman, you know, when we're speaking about somebody who is consistently a drain and who is proving that, you know, they don't want to do better, because after a certain amount of time, for me, you know, after the first time you do it, you know, because I'm not perfect, I make mistakes. I pride myself in not trying not to make the same mistake twice. You know, you're supposed to learn from it. You know, you're supposed to learn from it. You're supposed to apply what it is that you know. So somebody that is consistently making decisions that set us back financially, for me, that's not an uncomfortable conversation. At one point, maybe it was, because I was trying to care about people's feelings, until I realized that that same leech that I'm trying to protect their feelings, they don't care nothing about mine. Like, they don't care about me worrying about how I'm going to do things because, you know, I don't have no help from them. They don't give a damn about that. But I'm trying to protect their feelings and not make them feel bad about not being upset. So, you know, for me, those days are over. So at this point, it's not an uncomfortable conversation for me. If you know what's good for you, then once a person has displayed this, you will go ahead and let them, you know, learn their lessons at the expense of someone else other than yourself, you know. Now,
but that's what I mean.
You want to keep on trying to, you know, be, you know, Captain Save a Hoe or Nurse Nan, you know, Nurse Ban. You go ahead and you do that, you know, but it's going to work out the same way every time.
Well, yes, and that's what I mean. There's always somebody willing to throw a lifeline to somebody, even though the individual they're throwing a lifeline from, it's not that they can't save themselves, they are unwilling. So they're unwilling to cut off a vice that always takes from them, that they need money to support it. So they're going around asking, well, it's almost like the wimpy syndrome. I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. When Tuesday rolls around,
well,
Wimpy doesn't have
need paper. We need look, we need people in the world that's gonna go on and give them a hamburger, okay? Because I ain't sharing my hamburgers, okay? I'm keeping mine. So we need people in the
Yes, we
world that's
do. Yes,
happy
we
with
do.
continually sharing their. You know what I'm saying? I can't even be mad at them because we need them.
But-
I need you because
Right.
I'm not going to do it. So
No, but
somebody got to do it. I'm
that's what
gonna
I'm
do
Somebody.
it with somebody that
let me
you
jump in,
know.
Wait,
Serena.
can I say
Somebody
this
got to
real
do
quick,
it.
Herbert? Have you ever thought of helping another woman that have kids or your nieces and
No,
nephews because you
no,
don't
no,
have
no,
kids?
no,
He said no, 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 no.
Really?
no.
Neither have
I'm
I.
sorry. I can't
That's
help but
okay.
laugh. But reason why I say that, let me share this with you. See, working in the field that I'm in, we lose. Okay, so I do real estate, and my people lose houses from cash deals because their parents are taking their 401bs and 401ks and taking their life insurances and paying cash to buy their kids homes. You understand what I'm saying?
But
Wouldn't that be nice if what like we can do that as African Americans and minorities to
hold
do that for
on.
our kids and like have an uncle. I had a girl,
Well, some
she's
of them.
Caucasian white girl
Listen,
said, "Well, my aunt, she left me some money so I can buy a house." Wouldn't it be nice to have an aunt that just said, "Listen, when I leave here, you can have that." I would love
Hell yeah,
somebody
it
to
would
throw
be
a
nice. Hell
hamburger.
yeah, that would be nice.
but see, that starts with
but
self.
but
You might have to
hold on. But
be
wait a
that
minute.
aunt for somebody. You know what I'm
But
saying?
wait a
Nobody
minute.
wants
Hold
it
on.
to start with them.
You said a mother.
That you because
You said a mother with children, not a family member. So you can't switch with
I
me.
did. An aunt. A girl said her aunt.
Yeah, but you asked me a mother with children, not a family member.
I did
Anything
say
that I have is always going to stay in the family. Just not some random mother with children. That's not my responsibility, nor my concern. And some people will label that as selfish. I'll wear that hat all day.
I'm not.
No problem. Because this is what I'm talking about, the ability to cut people off. Because it's only when we start to cut people off that the people around say, okay, you know what? We can't end up in that situation because we're not going to get help. So it makes people make smarter decisions. And until we start holding people's feet to the fire, they're always going to think that they can make a bad decision and society is going to cover for them, whether society is an aunt, uncle, brother, mother, father, sister, whatever the case is. We have to make people own their bad decisions so less people make those bad decisions. And the only way we can do that is by cutting them off. Like I can't remember the gentleman's name from the Shark Tank. They used to call him Mr. Wonderful. He said, and mind you, this dude is wealthy beyond measure. He said, when his kids get of age, guess what he's doing? He's cutting them off. He said, they're going to go into the world and they're going to learn what it means to earn.
You have to. That's balance. That's where you teach them that. You teach them that at home too. To have that balance.
Right, but what I'm saying is this: a lot of people don't learn balance. They learn the imbalance where they're always taking and they rarely give. It's not that I don't give. I'm selective with whom I give what to and why. And when I do give, nobody will know because I want it that way, because I don't want anybody who thinks just because I'm giving to this person that they're worthy of receiving from me. I say I pick and choose who I give because I know this individual is doing something. This individual is going somewhere. And people will ask me, well, what right do you have to determine who receives what? It's my money. It's my time. It's my ideals. So I reserve 101% complete autonomy into what I give of me. And people don't like that because they can't change it. They deem it as being selfish. They deem it as being mean, and any other term that you can come up with. And like I said, I'm okay with wearing that hat because not everybody is worthy of passing on their genes. And the sooner we start holding people's feet to the fire will mean that we as a demographic improve. Because if let's look at it like this. Nobody takes the worst of the worst and try to build with it and expect to have the best compared to the other, compared to something else. You'll never win that race. And this is what we have in Black America. We are trying to build with the worst of the worst and then wonder why we can't compete with the best. It's because we're too busy saving an element that doesn't need to be saved.
But
Put
you
that-
just
Go ahead.
that's what you're kind of saying. You're saying save the element that you're trying to save an element that don't need to be saved. But what I'm trying to say, like let me say this, like the principles that I feel like you give to receive.
I don't.
And you've made that very clear.
Okay.
But my question to you then is, have you seen any increase from the way that you're doing things? Like, have you seen that your tax bracket has grown, or are you stagnant? I would like to know that, because to me, when you give, you shall receive.
I don't subscribe to
But
the
if you
Bible.
hold it in your hand, it ain't going nowhere. You're gonna stay right where you're at. And you're
But
gonna keep talking about giving people money and can't give them no money because you ain't getting none, because you ain't giving none away.
but the premise that you're taking is that I'm struggling where I'm at. I'm fine where I am. If I
I'm
wasn't,
not
I
saying
would.
you're struggling, but I'm just saying that I'm sure you would probably like something a little extra, no?
You're not listening.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
fine where I am.
Right. And see,
Okay.
that's the thing. You can't tell that. Listen, you can't tell that falls under the category of you have to believe people when they tell you who they are.
Right.
You
Thank
gotta
you.
believe them. If a person is telling you who they are, then it's up to you to just accept that.
And leave it
Because
alone.
you may want more if you would
Okay.
be in that situation that has nothing to do with how, and it's the same for you. That's exactly what you expect, when people are dealing with you. You expect for people to just respect where you are. It's just that, not
Right.
try to convince you that where you are doesn't make sense to them.
Listen, I'm gonna say
No.
this.
It
I'm gonna
doesn't
say
have
this.
to.
I'm gonna
It's
I'm
say
going
this.
just
off
where
of what
you
he
are.
said last week. That's what I'm going. I'm going off with something that he said that made me think that he's not happy where he is. But go ahead, David. Go ahead and finish.
I'm gonna say this. I'm
Go
gonna say
ahead.
this. I don't. People can say, they're fine where they at, and whatever the case is. I know for me, I'm gonna be fine where I'm at is when I be able to walk in work and ain't a worry in the damn world. I can come in there and do what the hell I want to do, walk out of there and like I ain't even none of the shit that go on here bothers me, or I'm worried about if I lost a job or whatever the case is. When that day happens, I'm like,
That's
man, that don't
always
even
how I
matter.
know it's time for me to leave. Once I start feeling that it's time for me to go.
But
I'm
yeah,
about to take some people out.
but that happens
Some
if
people
people
about
say
to
it's
get
time for me to
that piece
go.
of my bag.
They only go somewhere else, and then that shit happens again.
Mhm.
So it has to
Right.
be a point that you have to be like, man, I'm good. This is going
Mhm.
on. Whether it was life insurance or whatever that got you there, that you sitting on something, you like, you know what? I don't got to deal with this right now, because I know I got this nest egg, and I'm gonna find my niche or whatever to propel me to total happiness. Because sometimes you can walk in work, and people say it all the time. Ah, damn, the weekend already went by. Here we go, Monday. Got to walk into this shit again. And when you have those problems, I always say, man, it's a different story. I ain't gonna never say I'm fine where I'm at. I mean, I make a good living, I make a good income, but shit, I like to be able to walk in there like, what y'all do with it? Whatever y'all want. I'm in a leadership meeting, and I could just sit there. I could kick my feet up on the desk, and nobody else got their feet up on the desk and say,
Right.
y'all go ahead, have at it. Whatever. I ain't got too much to say, but when I walk out of there, I'm gonna walk out with a smile, and I'm gonna walk around here all day with a smile. And that's me. That's just my take. But before y'all go on, I have to give my man a plug. When we talk about financial literacy, he's the uncle of my nephew and niece. He came out with some cards, financial literacy cards. It has all the updated not all the updated terminology, just terminology based on words that we might not necessarily know, or we know, but we don't really understand the meaning of them. TL Du Bois on Facebook. I read some of them. I'm like, some of the things you hear, common words, But when you start thinking about the different life insurance policies, the IRAs, and different things like that, many of us don't know the meanings of that stuff. And we just know basic stuff. Savings account, checking account, life insurance, but you don't know all the ins and outs of that. And I think this is a good thing, like some cards, whatever, to even teach your children, and even up as adults, we need refresher courses on that stuff too, because we may know the words, or we may forgot about them, or shit, this might be an introduction. So that's all. I wanted to give them a shout out, and that's that. Y'all go ahead.
I just want to be clear so people understand. When I say I'm content where I'm at and I'm fine, that's exactly what that means. That means if I want to go make more money, I can. But it's not going to change who I am at my core. I'm not defined by the money I make. The money I make only allows me to do certain things. Nothing more, nothing less. So if I want to give, I'm going to give. I'm selective with that. Everybody tries to base, and it's what we call it projection. Everyone wants to project on somebody else what they're feeling about their situation, because that's what makes them feel good. It's the old adage, what you eat don't make me go to the bathroom. This is why I try to explain to people. This is why I don't own a car. I tell other people lose their minds. Not having a car doesn't impact my quality of life. If I want to go somewhere and do something in another city, I have the means to make that happen. Nobody's driving a car to Las Vegas. If I want to go to Toronto, I make plans. When people say, what if you want to do something to spur of the moment? I don't do things at the spur of the moment. They say, well, I was born. I said, no. I said, I have a life, and I plan accordingly because I have a work life. So if I'm looking to go, case in point, I wanted to go to a Billy Joel concert. 2 tickets cost me $700. No problem. People say, well, why in the world would you spend that much for 2 tickets to a Billy Joel concert? Because that's what I want to do. People don't
Hold up. You said 2 tickets. You had a date that night, huh?
Come on, David.
I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you, man.
But the thing about it is, people say that's a lot of money for 2 tickets. Yes, it's a lot of money because I don't spend money on other things.
But the question I would ask, she had to be worthy of something for you to spend $350 on her for a date. Shit, $350 for so man,
listen at you.
Mind your
Listen
business. Mind your business, Ray. I'm talking to her. Mind your business. This is grown man talk.
Right. But that's true. I mean,
right here.
Yeah.
We are right here. There you go. Please finish the thought.
I'm messing with Herb on that one.
Finish it.
Hey, when I do things, I do things.
And I can respect that. That's all.
Okay, can I ask this question? And it's just a question. Herb, so
money on, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So let me ask this question. If a woman is in or was, because we don't know, this is speculation, was worth taking her to a game that costs $300 something, if she has children and may need help with her children,
that would have See,
I won't leave it alone. I was just wondering. I was just wondering.
The answer's no. No.
To each his own. To each his own. No judgment. I was just wondering.
No. This is why I don't deal with women with minor and dependent children. I don't know how much cleaner I can make that. The answer's no.
Thank you for thinking. I get it now. It's over. I get it. I get it. I'm waving the white flag on that one. I get it.
I've said that from day one. That's no surprise to people who have been listening. I just don't.
I was just hoping that you would have a change of heart. I thought you would just, the heart would get softened up a little bit.
It has nothing to do with heart. It has everything to do with principle.
You do not need her to interact with nobody's kids. Girl, no. No, you do not. I am a firm believer, and you need to listen. The universe has chosen what all of us are going to do on this earth. If that man does not want to deal with kids, it is a reason, and you just trust
Believe
that
that,
thing.
like, right.
You
Just
just go with that. You
No,
don't
it's
need leave that thing right there. You don't got the hoping and wishing and praying that he gonna change for
Yeah,
what? What is that gonna do? No, it's somebody else is gonna do that. That we just talked about that. It's somebody for everybody. Somebody's
That's so
job
true.
is to do that. It ain't his though. You know what I'm saying? That's just it's somebody's job to take in a dude that doesn't have a job and build him up and all that stuff. It's not Saria's job.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not mine. So if that's what you want to do, then that's what you do. Have at it. Like, you know, get your hey, like do you. But where I'm at, that's not my job. I'm somewhere else.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? We just gotta respect people's job. He
That
done
ain't
told
that
you
ain't
what
it.
his job
You know,
his
I'm just
job
messing
don't
with
have nothing
Herb
to do
because
with
Herb
kids.
I've known Herb since we were kids, so I'm messing with Herb, and I've known her for a long time, so I'm just messing with him.
But
people think of me when I said,
look. Now here's the thing, though. We have to be able to keep that same energy when women do the same thing, because see, men complain about women that, you know, stick very firmly to their ideals and the things that they will not deal with and the things that they don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be able to keep that same energy, because I see, you know, he just like, yeah, Herb is the man. Yeah, Herb is, and that's just it, and he's sticking to it. But then at the same time, if a woman were to say that,
And
hey,
that's
I'm not
it.
dealing with no, you know what I'm saying? So we just got to learn how to keep that same energy. Understand that everybody has the exact same right that you do. You know, just like you have a right not to deal with certain BS. Everybody else has that same exact right not to deal with certain BS, and they reserve that right to not be damn ridiculed about it.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
you know, I'm just like, you know, let's keep that energy. Like, I love it. Shit.
Girly girl.
That's the rule. I learned that rule out of the men's book.
Absolutely.
I take my rules right out the men's book. Oh, that's what the men do. That's what y'all do. Y'all don't give a damn about nobody else's feelings. Y'all just do what y'all do. Oh, shit. That sounds like a great idea. And then I just do that, and the shit works. So, like, hey, here we go. Keep giving it to me. Shit, I learned very well.
Hey, girly girl. What's good? You quiet. You got something to say?
I'm just listening.
Okay. Well, listen, I wanted to go back to Robert in this scenario. I just wanted to read like some of the summarization of this whole thing and some of the perspectives that were said. Robert is an ass for not taking care of his children and refusing to pay child support. The behavior is a cycle that is allowed by mothers who let their sons behave this way. A situation like this is double standard. Men are allowed to behave like this, but when women do it, they are called all kinds of whores. Robert needs to have reconciliation instead of separation. He is lacking leadership in the home. What kind of female will allow a man to not take care of his children, and she knows about it? I guess talking about the mistress. Some of the knowledge behind this. Robert has went on to become a successful physician, but to this day, his relationship is scorned because of the way he treated his wife and children, and that is something that he has to live with for the rest of his life. Actions. Robert should have let his wife know he was unhappy and sat down and discussed a plan on how he was going to financially support his family. Never leave your children in a position of potential homelessness or wondering where their next meal will come from. Too many times men are gallivanting around town, flossing their goods while their kids are looking for something good to eat. Consequences. Pain, hurt, and mistrust comes out of situations like this. And in most cases, everything fathers touch ends up ruined. They say God does not like ugly, and in some cases, home is not a home. And when that is the case, talk to your spouse about it. Attempt to make repairs before you evict yourself from the situation. So that sums up home is not a home. Anybody got anything to say about that?
Yeah, well, when yeah, yeah. Well, so for me, my kid's dad paid for it. And for me, it was about the fact, our children, we both made them. For me, I didn't take the stance of, they're man and they're going to be taken care of, even though that was the truth. No matter what he would have decided to do in the end, of course, don't take care of him. So, that's just what it was. I didn't care how he felt about that. So and we made it through that, and they have the relationship with their dad that they have today because we worked that out and we took that part of it off of the table. I had the majority of the custody, so that's just what it was. We were young when we embarked on that, so I think that that's something else that we need to remember. It's very, very easy for a lot of people to say what somebody should have done in that situation. Hindsight is 2020, and when you're looking from the outside, it's very, very easy to see what somebody should have done, but what's not really being taken into account when people are giving their shoulda, woulda, coulda, and emotions are involved. Ready to leave the relationship, I was ready to leave. I didn't give a damn what nobody else was talking about. I didn't care about they solutions, their opinions. When you're ready to go, you're ready to go. And you don't always make the right decisions and the best decisions and the most selfless decisions when you're ready to go. But it's life. Nobody is scarred for the rest of their life because they made a wrong decision. You can come back from anything if you choose to, if you do the work to do it. So that's just kind of where I stand on that. Yeah. That's what he can come back from it. Everybody can come back from it. It's just going to take everybody just growing up and thinking about what is supposed to be the focal point, which is supposed to be the children, and what is going to be the best thing for how do we not make our kids need therapy? That was always my question. How do we keep our kids out of therapy? Like, what do we like? We may need therapy, but we're supposed to be trying to break this generational curse of crooked crazy in the family, and just so how do we keep our kids out of the therapist's office? What do we need to do? How do we need to communicate? That's your job.
Right.
To me, that's your job. That's your job.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just where I'm at with that.
I guess I missed the part about the beginning about what is the stereotype of women being called hoes if they do what did he do in the beginning? I missed that part.
I guess because the simple fact he had a mistress is saying that if women did that, they would be called all types of horrors and stuff like that.
Yeah. Women do that though.
Yeah. So it was
women
accepted.
do that though.
Well, we know that they do that, but I guess that person was saying that. Yeah, so I guess, and in this point in the case, he was doing it. So they were saying that, like, if women did that, it wouldn't be acceptable. So they saying it's more acceptable when guys do it.
I believe to a degree that's true. I do. I think that we sometimes sweep it up under the rug when men do it, because or women, and I don't want to seem like I just think
there's no real consequence. There's no real consequence
when men do it, right? And that's
there's an argument, there's a blow up, there's maybe a breakup,
that's it. Right. It's like with a woman,
he's already secured another piece over here.
Right.
But with the woman, there's a very clear consequence. Right. So that's where the imbalance comes. And that's what makes it seem, that's the imbalance, is that there's not a real consequence.
So true. And that's what I agree with that, because as I mentioned earlier,
just kind of he's able to stick and move.
Right. And I did share earlier, regarding when I left my ex-husband, I was ridiculed harshly for that. I was ridiculed because I had children and I didn't have I didn't have a guy on the side when I left. I was like, I'm just leaving. I just gotta. It's either he gonna take him out, or he gonna take me out. When they get like that, it's time to go. But I got to the point where they would ridicule me, but there was men doing all kind of stuff. They ain't had no business doing in the church. Ain't nobody talking about that. So not just the churches in life, period. There's some, but as soon as I do something or I made a decision to, open a business, I got ridiculed for that because the husband didn't agree. So I should have never did it. Well, no, why couldn't the husband just jump on board? No, this is for our family. I think I went against a lot of the grain of what people thought should be. And I didn't care because they made excuses for men for years. And everyone sat in this bubble as if that's how you're supposed to, it should be okay. And it's never okay. So, yeah, I agree.
And understand. One is the Madonna whore complex. The other is the temperance movement. When you understand those two things, you will understand how, let me classify it by saying, old world philosophies and thought processes undergird what men were able to do and why it was overlooked. Not accepted per se, but overlooked. And I think the temperance movement will really drive that home because a lot of women at that time, they were dependent upon a man. So what they would say is, why can't you go get your own? At that time, there was enough men around. The only problem was a lot of them weren't as stable as some of the ones that had gotten married, because we have to keep in mind that this country hasn't always been a country that's been a stay-in-place country. We're looking at the last 75 years of the United States existence as where people were able to actually firmly put down roots and actually able to secure a family there. So for the first
Cook your steak because she didn't want it to go bad.
So for the first 100 or so years of this country's existence, families were migrant families, and men might have a family here, but they would move west to actually try and find greener pastures. So just go look at those two things: the Madonna whore complex and the temperance movement. That'll give people a framework from which to start understanding how modern culture, in terms of male behavior when it comes to dealing with multiple women, was just like Lakia said, kind of swept up under the rug because they knew what was going on. But it's like, what can I do? I can't go out and work. I can't do this. And this is why a lot of women now are saying that I'm not going to have myself and my children be put in that situation. So I understand it and I don't fight the notion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, anything else we want to add? Because we can close this one. We can get ready to close this one out. Anybody else want to add anything else before we go into our closing remarks? Because, man, in March, it's going to be a heat up. It's going to be a heat up. That's all I can say. Don't get scared. Don't get scared. We ain't trying to bully. I'm just saying it's going to be a heat up in March. Got some things cooking in the oven. They all saw docile, whatever. What's the problem?
Oh goodness gracious, yes, it is quiet. The whole panel is just quiet. What is happening?
Some weeks it's like that. People just probably trying to wind down toward the end. Guess what I found out? Yeah, I know that I thought
found out.
I was supposed. Remember, I went to work last Tuesday, and I don't pay attention to all that union talk. And then one of my other co-workers, who she's also department chair, had told me that, oh, David, you didn't get the email that they were going back and forth, that you don't have to go back. You didn't have to go back to the work to the 15th. So I've been going into work damn near 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
Nobody said anything. I was up in that camp, whatever, just like. But you know, it was good for me
I
to get
guess
back
they
into the
figured
swing of
you
the
made
things.
a decision that you
Yeah.
wanted to go.
But I ain't going tomorrow. I can
Wow.
tell you that I ain't going in there tomorrow. I'm working virtually, but it's just crazy. People tell you what they want to tell you. Like, well, it's a body in the building. Maybe he'll get used to when the kids come back. He'll stay coming in here. We'll have an extra body. A lot of slick with them, but it's okay though. That's just something I wanted to drop to break up the little quietness of this. But we about to get ready into closing points. We can get out of here. I ain't gonna be the
Out to
dead horse.
Cleveland tomorrow I'm supposed to be on the road to Cleveland to go celebrate my daughter's 30th birthday. My son is flying in from LA. So yeah, and I get to get my hands on a new grandbaby. I ain't had it since I left. So yeah.
Let me see. Let me guess. Let me forgot what the baby name. I know you had said it. I'm trying to think. See how my memory. Because before I used to memorize this stuff like nothing. What is the baby name? I ain't gonna even try it. I'm getting old. What's the baby name?
They don't even do that to yourself. Her name is Sage.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't have got that, but I had one of my favorite stews' name was Sage.
But now it's 3 girls. They got 3 girls, and that's it. Paris, Myra, and Sage, and so yeah, they're done. So.
All right. Anybody closing comments? Who want to go first? Well, I want to pick on you, Lakia.
Well, hey, I'll go first. You are. Oh no, go ahead, Lakia.
If you're not invited to the table, create your own.
All right. Yeah, you got and that's true. Because sometimes people have their own tables, they don't invite you. You create your own, then you dictate all of that. You dictate who comes to the party. Good point. Soraya.
You know what I say. Check yourself more than you check other people. Like your life would be much happier. You can't control nobody else but yourself. So, and my new added is that fair exchange is, no robbery. So try not to be a thief out here. Give as much as you take in the world.
So that means if I have an orgasm, she has to have one too?
You're damn right. Shit.
I guess she's gonna be in trouble then.
As a matter of fact, she need to have 2.
That's not fair.
Thank you. Thank you, Saray.
About all of that. She need to have 2. And the reason is because you get a choice. The reason is because you get a choice. You get a choice in that. That's the reason. So no.
So fair exchange there's no such exchange then. There's no 1-to-1. I just want to be clear.
No, it's not. I done already started and said what I said. Fair exchange is no robbery. You don't want shit to come at all. You done said she ass out, period. So no.
No. That's not what I said. I asked a question.
Yes, you did.
I said
you said she'd be.
I said if.
Gotta look. That's
I just said it.
Said. Don't try to.
Yeah, I don't know how you can make them shit out of luck,
you said
man.
She gotta look.
No, she where it might be, but I did ask the question.
Shit out of luck if you planning on her not coming. Show the shit out of luck. No.
Bad move, Herb. If you go that route, bad move.
Oh, not really.
You'll be sleeping on your fucking hands.
Listen, don't be a selfish look. Don't be a selfish lover on top of.
No, Saray. Like you said, you gotta leave him alone, fool. You gotta leave him alone.
Right? Just
Hey, if it turns,
you gotta leave him alone. That's how he do.
This is my thing. When we both started sex, I didn't hit any red lights.
I'm not.
I'm just saying I don't hit red lights.
I'm disengaged.
All right.
I hit red lights.
Herb, did you already do it? We already know yours, but did you do it?
Well, growth and understanding occurs in the gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
All right. Brolic T. I hate a thief.
Nobody likes a liar.
Herb out there facing that hawk. So about
What you say? All I hear is the wind.
That's what they're
whipping
talking about.
her around. That's all I hear.
Me,
No, that's what I'm talking
we're gonna close it out. Good show, good conversation, and it's only gonna pick up in March. We got some things going on where there's gonna be more feedback from men, other than Herb and my voice. You know, I want more people to come on, more guys to come on, so y'all can hear some different feedback. But I guess we got some volunteers in March that they coming on, and that's March 8th. But at the end of the day, again, I'm gonna always say it, there's only two absolutes. You live and you die. They used to try to say, oh, everybody pay taxes, but we know that's not the case. So all of this stuff is up for, you just never know. It's case by case. It's a case by case situation. And even with this thing with Robert and the child support and all that stuff and the survey, we know that nothing is 100%. The only thing we can do is try to talk about it, put it out there, and have discussions about it, and just go from there. I'm about to get the hell out of here because that wind is whooping Herb's ass, and we about to sign out here. And stay tuned for Monday night episode. And you know how Monday is. Usually the panel is a little bit up more energy, more going back and forth. But last Thursday we had a bomb burner over Gary. I guess y'all over Robert, whatever. For next Thursday.
Don't do that yet.
Thank you all for joining. Herb, make it safe.
I'm not happy there, man. I'm biting Bisco.
Your ass seemed like they knocked you down a couple times. You got up in still going out. Right,
I'm a prize fighter. No such thing. I take shots just like I give them.